This is a review comparing XD, Springfield XD and Glock. And I'm a huge fan of both and definitely have my experience with both brands, and start off by saying you can't go wrong with either one. And well, let's get started. Like I was saying, I'm a huge fan of both brands. I have my XD 45 compact. I have my XD, actually this is my XD 40 subcompact, XD 9 subcompact, and well, like I said, I love both brands. So this would be my Glock 30 here, Glock 23, Glock 19, and Glock 26. Now, going forward with them, both firearms definitely have their advantages. Now, moving into a few distinct differences, of course, one would be the grip angle. Your XDs, they're going to have more of the 1911 type grip angle. It's a little more straight up. Glocks, well, it's kind of their own angle. Both of them definitely great. I can't say that enough. The XD, I would say, as far as point of aim, it seems a little easier with the XD. Glocks, a lot of it could be with their point of aim. They use more of like a little U shape in the back, and then of course your dot on the front, trying to aim it, perfectly right, kind of goes side to side. Your XDs, it's more of the 3-dot sight. Now, of course, this is standard, so of course here you're going to want to just aim straight, keep the dot in the middle, line them up, and you're good to go. Now, concealability factors, that's where probably Glock would take advantage or have the advantage. The average Glock, in comparing the different calibers, the average Glock is going to be a little bit lighter, which doesn't seem like much, but when you're wearing your pants all day and depending on your holster where you like to carry, I'm more of a 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock carry person. And holding on to the XDs, you find yourself pulling your pants up just a little bit more. Thickness of the two, XDs are slightly thicker, which you'll, if you're worried about printing, I haven't found much of a worry at all. I can conceal any of them and I'm just fine, but I'm also somewhat of a larger person. Now, one thing, so if you want to look at the compacts or the subcompacts and compare them, here's sort of a difference between the XD. Now, granted, some of it is the height of the barrel slide, but if you look at the two, there's the Glock 26 and the XD subcompact 40. This little bit, it definitely has a little bit more of a printing effect. So if you're worried about that, I'd suggest the Glock 26. One thing, of course, with the shorter handle, you have your 2 fingers. Oh, got a sticker on my finger here. Oh well. You have your 2 fingers grip. It's uncomfortable for some. I actually really enjoy it. I just kind of dangle my pinky down below it, and I have a good solid shot with that. Now your XD, even though it looks a lot taller, you still have the same effect, and the reason why is because of the height of the barrel, or the barrel slide. So again, you see my pinky dangled off, so they're both going to have the same features as far as that goes. Now, the one advantage with the XDs is the quality of an extended magazine. With the Glocks, they do have the extended magazines. It's more or less like on the Glock 26, if you wanted to put in, say, a Glock 19 magazine, you get these, you can order these little rubber pieces that you could slide over the magazine to where it'll give you that extra grip. And it's It's pretty good. I mean, when you're firing your shots, you somewhat feel a little bit of the if you'd say the recoil, where the slide or the magazine will kind of flare back just a little bit. Now with the XDs, if you want the larger grip handle, they have more of a, it's the same texture of basically the handle of the slide. Or I'm sorry, the handle of the grip. So this one would be for the XD Subcompact 9. So as you see here, you put this in. Now this will give you a full grip and you feel the whole quality of the same firearm. So, but again, back to a printing factor. Now if we're going to take these, set them side by side, back down with the Glock, and compare them, you're going to once again see a huge difference as far as the handle length or the handle grip and the possibility of printing. So with that said, it's, you know, it's all a choice thing. Being a larger person, I was actually worried it was going to be the opposite, and being larger would be more difficult to conceal. And I've found that to be completely the opposite. Every one of these firearms I can conceal no problem whatsoever. This here is the XD Compact 45. And although it has somewhat of a smaller grip, I'd still kind of dangle the pinky off. You can maybe fit it on. It kind of gives me at least a half grip. But I find it extremely comfortable. Now, recoil, if you're recoil sensitive at all, I'd say the advantage would go towards the XD. XDs, like I said in the beginning of the video, the weight of the XD being just a tad bit heavier, you really have an advantage with the recoil, and the weight, in a sense, helps. Balances out really well. And for example, the XD 40, even though it's a subcompact, or say the 45 compact, the recoil is not very strong at all. My Glock 23, probably out of each of the firearms here, I would say has the strongest recoil. Oddly enough, that's probably my most comfortable firearm to shoot, only because for years I only had a history of shooting the 40 Smith & Wesson, and because of that, gosh, I feel much more comfortable with it. But you know, to all is their own. Getting into this, I wanted to be able to have each of the typical calibers that you would carry as far, or for a concealed carry type purpose. So having them all, that could be for another video, but of course, in my opinion, the 40 kicks probably the most. The 45, although it has a kick, it's more of a push back instead of a snap. That goes with the Glock 30 up here at the top, as well as the XD Compact 45. Now, quality of parts. Actually, before I get into the quality of parts, there is one thing I wanted to kind of display here. Give me 1 second, I'm going to do it. But the big complaint between the two firearms, well, actually there's two in regards to the XD. A lot of people don't like the grip safety back here. Now, I don't see it being a big deal at all. Anybody who's going to plan to fire a gun, you're of course going to properly handle the gun, and that grip safety is not even a factor. It just ensures that you're going to handle your gun, but it's not a discomfort. I've never not had fired because of not handling the firearm correctly. It's really a non-factor. Now, the other thing that came up was the Glocks are easier to disassemble for cleaning, and it's really very close in comparison. The only difference is, while the Glock, you'll just slide forward by sliding down the two knobs on each side, or one knob on each side here. You're pretty much doing the same thing, except this little lever here, you're just going to push it upward. And I'm going to go ahead and display both for you right now. Now first, we'll go ahead and disassemble a Glock. Go ahead and do the Glock 26 here. Of course, you're going to make sure nothing's in there. It's all safe. I'm going to point in a safe direction. I'm going to fire. Now I'm going to take this little slide here, this slide over here, and I'm just going to slowly take the slide back just a tad, pull both of those down, and I get to go forward. Okay. Now if we take an XD, it's going to be somewhat the same thing, but this time, first you want to make sure it's safely, no bullets are in there. I'm going to slide back. I'm going to push up on the little slide stop to where the firearm's going to lock back like this. Now I'm going to take the lever, I'm going to slide it up, going to rack the slide, pull the trigger. Now all I got to do is slide forward. So as you can see, it's really not a complicating thing. I don't know. It's both of them, they take seconds to disassemble. Now the one thing I do want to point out is the quality inside of each firearm. So this is the XD 45 Compact. Now as you can see, the recoil spring, very durable. Just a really solid piece. This one's somewhat new. I've only shot it a couple hundred times. The barrel, the slide, everything's somewhat similar. You're going to notice a size difference. I guess I should have disassembled the 9, but the quality on the inside of these guns, that's where I believe things separate a little bit. The recoil spring, this is all subjective, but Glock, the stock recoil spring is plastic. And let me get this guy out real quick. On the Glock, it's typically plastic. When I do purchase a Glock, the first thing that I like to do is replace the plastic guide rod or recoil spring assembly, whichever you want to call it. And I like to put in a stainless steel. And it's not to discredit the OEM plastic guide rods. I know that I've heard stories of these things lasting, gosh, into the couple 100,000 rounds, especially with the Glock 17s. So to me, it's just a peace of mind. To many, it's just a waste of money. But, you know, might as well get it. That's the way I look at it. It's, you know, it could be $20 more for a firearm to give you a sense of, or a peace of mind. And, you know, to all is their own. Now, looking at the Glock parts on the inside, still a fantastic firearm. You can't go wrong with a Glock. But when you look at the pieces, everything's pretty thin. I'm not trying to discredit the quality, but to me, there is a quality difference. This is the Glock. Now, if we look at, oops, sorry about that. If we look at the XD, everything's solid. Just a real solid piece. And they haven't been long enough, or they haven't been out long enough to really show off the durability like Glock has. Glock's been around for years, and I'd be willing to bet though that XD is going to be giving them a run for their money within the next 20 years when the quality of these firearms are able to prove themselves. I don't have the person's name or the link, but there is a video on YouTube. I've seen many with Glock where they'll do the 1,000 round test simultaneously, showing off the quality of the Glocks. The XD, believe it or not, somebody had a 10mm XD, which for those of you who don't know, 10mm is an extremely powerful round. If you're gonna have any wear and tear, the 10mm is definitely gonna really try to push for that. And in any event, the gentleman on there had done a 10,000 round test. And although switching out some recoil spring assemblies or guide rods every couple thousand rounds. The thing shot every single round without a hiccup, not one malfunction at all, and shot the 10,000 rounds in, I think it was just over 1 hour. And it was unbelievable to see, and it really spoke volumes for the quality of those firearms. So, you know, again, it's all choice. A lot of people are Glock fans. A lot of people are XD fans. Myself, I love them both. Both, again, huge advantages. Quick breakdown, recap. XDs, fantastic. A little bit heavier, a little bit thicker. You know, better aim though. Glocks, a little bit lighter, a little thinner. Concealability is great. Aiming, it's all subjective. Trigger pull, again subjective. I'm more of the fan of the snappy trigger from Glock over the little bit of a, gosh, if you'd say a little bit of a pull on the XDs, but not entirely bad. Probably the firearm with the worst trigger pull I've ever felt was the, oh gosh, it was the Smith & Wesson SD 40 VE. And gosh, I felt like I was reeling in a fish every time I was pulling the trigger. And these are nowhere near that, just a little bit of a pull. And so again, subjective. A lot of people may prefer this. I personally like the Glock pull, but as you can tell, they're both great. I can't decide. One day I'll feel great wearing my XD. The other day I'll feel great wearing my Glock. And there is one thing that I did neglect to mention, and that is durability. Now, I left these 3 firearms on the table because these are my most used, or as I would say, my approved concealed carry firearms. Here in California, you are only allowed to carry what you had qualified with. And at least in my county, you are allowed up to 3 firearms. And so these were my 3 of choice, and all 3 of them, I'm a big advocate on practicing as often as possible. And with that, these 3 have a significant amount, well, considerably a significant amount of rounds shot through them. They're all less than a year old. This firearm right here is my Glock 26. I have fired 8,883 rounds out of it. Not one malfunction, not one hiccup. The only part that I've replaced around the 2,000 round mark was the recoil spring or guide rod assembly. And it was not by the OEM failing on me at all. It was just my preference of going to stainless steel over plastic. And that was the only thing I've changed. Everything else completely original. Now, my XD 40 Subcompact, just behind it, I'm around, oh gosh, 7,000, here it is, 7,443 rounds. And again, not a single hiccup. This one has all original parts. It is, gosh, it's been flawless. It's both have eaten every round that I've thrown inside of it. I was guilty of even throwing tool ammo inside the firearms for quite a while, just saving a few dollars. And tool ammo never gave me any problems either. They fired perfect. A little dirty when you're doing your cleanings, but with that, I'm very stringent on keeping my firearms cleaned. I clean them every time I shoot. And I believe that if you take care of your firearm will take care of you. And so I'm very adamant on the cleaning. So with that said, tool ammo was great. It just, things were a little bit more dirty, but not a big deal if you're going to do it every day anyway. But back to it, they've been flawless. My Glock 30 45 ACP, I've fired this 5,745 times. Again, the only part that I've replaced on this, it was right around the 1,500 round mark was replacing the OEM plastic guide rod with a stainless steel. And again, there was no issues. I still, actually, I do carry all their, or have all the guide rods, the OEMs. But like I said, just personal preference. I'm more of a stainless steel person, just gives me a peace of mind. But everything else inside the Glock, it's been flawless. And gosh, I can't say enough. Both brands are fantastic. You can't go wrong with either one. At least where I live, your XD, your typical XD is going to run you between $100 to $150 less than a Glock. Now with that said, that really, it gives the advantage to XD there, because they're both reliable, dependable, long-lasting in my opinion. Again, I believe in years to come, you're going to see XDs are going to be amazing, and they're going to be holding up next to, if not surpassing, Glocks. But time will tell. So that concludes the review. Again, if you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to hit me up at any time. All right, talk to you guys later.